Welcome everybody to day 2 of the Recovery Capital Conference. Really appreciate everybody being here. We had an amazing event yesterday. So I see a lot of faces, and we had so much great content that it couldn't fit in one day. So we decided to do day 2. My name is Jason Howell. I'm a person in long-term recovery for both mental health and substance use issues. And what recovery has allowed me to do is above and beyond what I could have done back in my disease. One of the things it's allowed me to do is be the executive director of RecoveryPeople. RecoveryPeople is a statewide network of peers and family members in recovery. We do a couple different things. We are definitely peer-driven, so we are recruiting peers to be on our community advisory board. So anybody interested in being on our CAB, please come talk to me or Melissa sometime during the day. We are also going to launch a resource directory. That's one of the main things that we hear from peers is how do we get people connected with the different resources. Sometimes they're not there, and sometimes they are in the local community. We just don't know how to connect to them. Another thing that we're doing through RecoveryPeople is peer leadership and workforce development, and we're primarily doing that through what we call the CREW, which stands for Continuing Education, Continuing Recovery Education Workshops. And the other two things, Recovery Capital Conference, which is what you are here today for, and we also encourage the development of local collaborations. And I've highlighted these two because that's how this conference really formed and was organized. We got a lot of shout outs on Facebook, and I really pointed people, it's this local community in Austin that came together, developed this amazing programming, and has put on this conference. So a big round of applause for our ROC partners. Also want to mention we've got sessions going on in this room in Utopia, and then we're going to have breakout sessions down in the hall, the men's and women's restrooms, as well as the tacos, Clean Cause water and coffee are down the hall as well. And we also have our mental health partners. They're having their conference as well. And as I mentioned, I'm a person in long-term recovery for both substance use and mental health issues, and so I really think this is a great precedent for us to work together and leverage resources so that we can grow both sides of the house. Here's kind of a snapshot of the day, just to give you an orientation. I don't know how many programs I've printed, and we ran out of almost all of them the first day, so I think that's a good problem to have. That means that we had more than we expected yesterday. But right now, after this introduction, we're going to jump into recovery community organizations, and then break into our breakouts. Joseph will be in this room to talk about peer recovery support services and the role that they're playing. Melissa will be down the hall talking about access to healthcare. Hell yes for recovery. And then we're going to break for lunch. And after lunch, there'll be a session in this room on sober fun, because we are not a glum lot, as well as Robert Ashford will be down the hall talking about advocating with anonymity. And if we want to engage this army of peers to advocate for the programming and policies that we need, this is one of the things that we need to learn how to do. And then we'll kind of wrap up the day back in this room talking about recovery in Texas schools. Texas has got it going on, and we've got a lot of things going on in this campus across Texas. And when Greg Williams' film comes out in the spring, Generation Found, eyes are going to be on Texas, because we're really leading the country when it comes to recovery in schools. Why do we have to fill out surveys? Please fill out your surveys. This gives us feedback on how we can improve in the future. Also, if we don't have documentation, it's not like if it's not documented, it didn't happen. And it's a big part of our grant. Please fill out the surveys. Can you get CEU credit? Yes. Make sure that you sign in and out. I think Jason was at the front table. If you didn't sign in and need CEUs, please go talk to him. And there is a camera. We are videotaping this so that we can post it online and really reach a broader audience. And probably the hardest working man yesterday was Mr. John Winters. He was all over the place, especially that last session when we were talking about opiate recovery, and there was a lot of people that wanted to say a lot of things. He was having to work that camera, so I really appreciate John. We could not have put on this conference without sponsors. You might have noticed that the admission into this conference was really, really inexpensive. And we couldn't have done that without our top sponsor, Confirmatrix. Also, some of our top sponsors, Benchmark Recovery, Eudaimonia, the School of Social Work. How awesome is this this building, and them being able, allowing us to be here today. We would have been here yesterday, but there was a game going on, and they wouldn't move the game for us. Then also, Clean Cause Water. We've got samples of it in there in the taco room. Clean Cause is a local company. 50% of the proceeds go back into recovery. That's an amazing thing. Can you imagine if we can get this thing to blow up? Not only is it raising awareness, but it's raising money for our cause. Other people I'd like to thank, other sponsors, Infinite Recovery, the Council on Recovery, and Sutherland Associates. Eudaimonia, $5, $10 doesn't seem like a lot to people unless they don't have it. And so Eudaimonia approached us and said, if there's individuals that can't even afford the $5 or $10, please let us know, and we will scholarship them into the conference. And this is a community-wide event, and so I definitely wanted to acknowledge all the different community members. These are organizations and associations across the state of Texas that are really bolstering the recovery movement here in Texas. And it's about all of us collaborating together. Other states you may have like one kind of dominant RCO that's kind of spearheading everything. Texas is big. We got a lot going on. We've got a lot of amazing organizations, and so we're dedicated to collaborate together and move all of us forward. Volunteers, we've had some amazing volunteers. Some of them have been putting in really long hours. So please help me thank them as you are coming in and out of the rooms. Again, we wouldn't have been able to do this without the volunteers. And so I kind of sped through that. I hope it didn't seem like I was, the road runner going through this early morning session or early morning welcome. But I really wanted to get to this because peer-led recovery organizations are really what is changing and driving the recovery movement. And we've got a great set of panelists. If I can figure out how to get this screen up, I would like to invite the panelists on stage. Lizette with Young People Recovery, Christopher Araujo with the Military Veteran Peer Network, Robin Peyson with Communities for Recovery, Joseph Sanchez with Recovery Alliance of Austin, and Mike Ware with the Sober Recreation Committee. So we have one mic, and we'll just kind of be passing it around. I think it's really cool to look at the different peer-led recovery organizations that we have in Texas because it's very diverse. A lot of times, people have kind of a mindset of, it's supposed to look, one particular way, and there's actually a lot of diversity. YPR is a national network that has local chapters. The Military Veteran Peer Network, y'all are across the state of Texas, so they're a statewide network. Communities for Recovery, it's a classic RCO that's based out at a recovery community center. We've got Recovery Alliance of Austin that is really kind of scattered aside. Y'all are plugging in across Austin. And then, Lou with the recreational, the Sober Recreational Committee, y'all are really kind of focused in on one area. So huge diversity on this panel. And so maybe we can just pass the mic around and you can talk about your organization, its mission, maybe kind of the types of activities that you do.
morning, everybody. Good morning. Glad to see some faces here. And a lot of people I saw yesterday as well. I'm Peyson, and I'm the Executive Director of Communities for Recovery. And I've been in that position about a year and a half. It's been just wonderful. I'm just so honored to have been doing work either in the mental health or substance use world for now like 30 years or something. Really, was it another 10 years went by? But yes. And so it's something I have a great deal of passion for. I'm a person in recovery from trauma and a family member. I have lots of family members who have struggled with living and in the past who have struggled with substance use and mental health issues. So I'm very passionate about this. Communities for Recovery, I'm just going to read our mission and then speak without looking at words here. Communities for Recovery is a nonprofit organization in Austin, Texas that supports long-term recovery for people with substance use and co-occurring mental health conditions by partnering with communities to provide volunteer peer-supported recovery programs and services. That's sort of sums it up. We were actually founded in 2004, so we've been on the scene for a while. Really before recovery was sort of a community-wide conversation, or at least we thought it was. And Dr. Scott Horton was our founder, and he passed last November. He's a wonderful gentleman who's very passionate and very generous, a very successful businessman who wanted to make a difference for recovery in the Austin area. And so he founded, we were originally called Volunteers at the Creek, and we were called Volunteers at the Creek because our heart and soul is a volunteer organization. And our motto is give to keep. And what that means is that we believe that volunteering is a pathway to supporting not just the sobriety of others, but your own sobriety. And so we started out volunteering at Shoal Creek, going in and doing recovery support groups for individuals who are at Shoal Creek, which is a local behavioral health psychiatric hospital. And then we expanded from there. So sort of fast forward, because we don't have a lot of time. We have about 90 active volunteers. We do about 25 recovery support groups every week throughout the Austin area. We do groups, and we're located at Austin State Hospital, which is great because as a nonprofit, we don't pay rent, so we can put more money into our program. And we do groups at Austin State Hospital, our volunteers at the Child and Adolescent Unit. We do groups at Texas Rehab. We do groups at New Entry. We started a group the last 3 months at the state jail. We provide services at the Del Valley facility here in Austin. What am I leaving out?
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So, and every time I turn around, we're trying to look at where can we do more groups. And we do a lot of social events, and our volunteers help with that because, like Jason said, we think we're not a blown lot. We think there should be lots of fun. And that's a conversation. Will I ever have fun again from not using? And we want to show them when we can have. And in addition to those volunteer opportunities, we've really started working on a new program. We also offer the Peer Recovery Coach Institute training 4 times a year, once a quarter. And we have a grant called the Youth and Emerging Adults Grant that allows us to train people who are interested in working with young people age 60 to 25. So we started that program, and it helped. It's designed to help people find employment working with young people in recovery work. So as a part of that, we're expanding our peer recovery coaching program and providing opportunities once you're through the training to do some volunteer training to get your 500 hours worth of certification. And of course, we have a wonderful staff of peer recovery coaches who also provide individual coaching services. folks. Now we're getting, I think we probably get 20 people a week just walking in. Every day they can go walking in and just looking for getting connected to the recovery program. We have in collaboration with a lot of our partners, we have 2 to 3 meetings every day at Communities for Recovery. We have refuge recovery. Jason's here. Shout out to Jason. Buddhist-based recovery. We have dual recovery anonymous. We have dual disorder recovery achievers. One's 12-step-based, one isn't. We believe that any path to recovery is what we support. You're the person who we help support you to find your answer. We have recovery plans. I tell people we're not a clinical model or a medical model. All our work is peer supports and service. We have a clothing closet, career closet for men and women. So you walk in and you need professional clothes for an interview or for work. We can help you. That's all donated. We get lots of wonderful donations. We have a strong program for women and children. We work very closely with the Family Drug Treatment Court and work very closely with those women. Shout out to Lizette. That's that. And we give away diapers. And we don't try to keep baby clothes, but we often have baby clothes that we give away. We have Twisted Sister on Tuesday nights, a women's program, and the Women in Recovery program for women in any recovery, NA, OACA. Sex Addicts Anonymous is going to be starting to meet at our program. We're looking forward. I would love to start hosting. If people come and ask us, can we start meeting at Community Recovery? And if I have an empty spot and that works for them, I say yes. I'd love to have Gamblers Anonymous. I love having an eating disorder group meeting. I do think as a recovery community, pulling together substance use, mental health, and all the areas that we struggle with is one of the roles I think is important for the community to recover. I don't know how much time I have to lay down.
Yeah, let's go ahead and hear Mrs.
All right. I'm sure I love this man.
So now, Chris, y'all focus in on veterans, the Military Veteran Peer Network, and not the first time I met one of your counterparts. I was invited to a barbecue. It was your annual barbecue. There were thousands of people there.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us more about your organization.
Sure, not a problem. Hi, I'm Christopher Araujo. I am the Peer Services Coordinator for the Military Veteran Peer Network here in Austin, Travis County. I'm a 16-and-a-half-year Army veteran, medically retired approximately 4 years ago after my 5th combat deployment in Afghanistan. After that, thanks. So after I was medically retired, I didn't really have a plan getting out of the military. It was kind of abrupt, kind of felt, kind of useless, and so I kind of spiraled out of control. It took an individual that I had no idea who he was at the time to ask me how I was doing. And his name was Sean Hanna. He is actually the director of our program now. The Military Veteran Peer Network, in essence, is the state of Texas' mental health program for veterans. Approximately 5 years ago, the state of Texas kind of was looking after the Fort Hood shootings at, what are we doing for veteran mental health? Let alone mental health across the board in the state of Texas was pretty inadequate. Letitia Vanderpute, who at that time was the head of the Veterans Affairs and Military Installations Committee at the Texas Senate, said, let's do peer support. Let's get veterans who have been there and done it and have been through the struggles that it takes to recover from PTSD, to recover from TBI, moral injuries, and let's train them to be peer mentors. Let's train these guys on who have actually been there and put them out in our communities who have access to veterans and help them navigate those systems to get help. Let alone also be a shoulder to lean on, somebody that you can talk to who understands the struggles of being in a combat situation or having some type of trauma related to your military service. So we fast forward to 5 years to today, and the Texas State Legislature puts $5 million into our program annually. We have 37 coordinators throughout the state of Texas who are housed in their local mental health authorities. So wherever there's a local mental health authority, you have an MDPN coordinator who taps into the resources that are available in their communities. So whenever there's a veteran service organization that has a program that's geared towards the veterans, those coordinators are tapped in. So when we have a veteran that comes to us or that is referred to our program, then we can tap into those situations, because we know that when we're dealing with trauma or we're dealing with substance abuse, there's a bunch of underlying issues. We come across homelessness, we come across trying to find a job, basic needs. So we just try to tap into all of those in our community, so we have those community resources and those partners that we can refer veterans to accordingly. Here in the Travis County area, we have a great program that we've created here. We have a lot of community partnerships. I work with the crisis intervention team with the Austin Police Department when it comes to veterans in crisis. I've gone through the police department's crisis intervention training. I'm a certified peer support specialist. I'm by no means a counselor or a professional mental health provider, but my struggles and my recovery has helped me be able to address and be able to be empathetic to what those individuals are going through. I'm also on the Travis County Veterans Treatment Court staff, where we provide peer court mentors to those veterans that are going through the justice system. And those mentors can help those individuals kind of ease that transition and try to ease the stress and the anxiety of being a justice-involved veteran, is what we call them. So what we do is we recruit volunteers, veterans who've been there, veterans who are recovering, who are going through recovery, and we train them to be peer mentors. We train those individuals, and all of our mentors are volunteers. So we train them and we put them out in our communities. I'm the only paid staff member here in Austin, Travis County, so I can't reach every veteran. So it takes the other veterans to be able to access those veterans. And if it's just one, then we've done our job. You know, we know that the statistic is 22 veterans a day commit suicide. You know, and we are trying in Texas to bring that number down. We're the only program in the country that is like this in Texas. Texas has this only program. We're not anywhere else in the country. We also work with justice-involved veterans. We have created the very first veterans re-entry dorm at the Travis State Jail. It's the first time that TDCJ has agreed to transfer veterans from any state jail in the state of Texas to a centralized location for programming. So we've created a re-entry dorm out of the Travis State Jail here in Austin. When we initiated this project, we initiated it with the re-entry division at TDCJ. Myself and two others went across the state of Texas and interviewed over 350 veterans incarcerated in the state jail system face-to-face to see if these individuals would be a good fit for this dorm. What we were looking for are veterans that had some type of trauma related to their military service that may have contributed to why they're incarcerated at this time. So what we've done is we handpicked 24, brought them into the dorm, and we do a lot of programming with them. We've done we have a field clinician on our staff who does the one-on-one counseling, seeking safety trauma groups. We do peer support groups. We do Tai Chi and meditation. One of the big things that we found that really kind of instilled some pride in them is that we had a flagpole and a flag donated to the dorm. They went out there and they planted the pole, and every morning they raised the flag, and every evening they bring the flag down. It was just something that we could do that would instill some pride and something back into what they were doing when they were in their military service. So, you know, that's pretty much our program in a nutshell. We work with service members, veterans, and their family members. We work with a lot of nonprofit counseling centers that have access to counseling for children who are suffering from trauma. Because we found out that, and I found this out personally, when I was going through my issues and I started recovery and I started getting help with my PTSD and my TBI, my family kind of got left behind. It was all about Chris. You know what? We can't do this because it might trigger something that Chris does. Or we can't go here because Chris can't be around big crowds. Or we can't talk about certain things. And my wife started to resent my recovery. My wife and I left my kids behind as well. So what I really focused on is getting those family members involved in counseling. Once my wife finally went to counseling and we went to couples counseling, the statement hit me like a brick. It was like, I had my voice back. I got my voice back and I was able to deal with the things that were bothering me. So we try to take that holistic approach. It's the family, the mind, the body, and the spirit. We also utilize a lot of integrative medicine programs, acupuncture, Asian body work. A lot of individuals don't like to go to the VA because it puts you on medication and they don't want to take those medications. So we try to find alternatives for those individuals. So yeah, that's our program in a nutshell.
Cool, thanks. Lizette, tell us about YPR.
I don't know how I'm going to follow that up with Chris. That's beautiful what you do for the soldiers that risk their lives for us. My name is Lizette. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I apologize. I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. Like many, I've struggled with alcoholism and addiction. There is no doubt this produced a life setback. However, more important, it became a blessing. Had I not gone through my experience, I would not be the woman I am today. The issue of substance use disorder is of importance to me personally because I have to live with this chronic disease for the rest of my life. It is a disease that affects millions of people and challenges many family members. In my opinion, there is no greater public health issue. At some point, my life transformed and I improved physically, mentally, and spiritually. My difficulties became a blessing. Through my recovery transformation, I learned to add value to my relationships and the community. I'm part of a wonderful healing fellowship, Young People in Recovery, a national advocacy association. I'm honored to speak on behalf of YPR, a dear and special organization of my heart. I hope to convey the gifts of YPR has bestowed to me. The program changed my perception of my own disease and allowed me to blossom into a well-rounded advocate for mental health. When I first started running a local chapter in Austin, I was asked to help coordinate a conference and run a fundraiser campaign. I had to write and speak often. This process allowed me to access a more positive literary tone and thus helped me communicate my ideas more honestly. The truth is simple. The message YPR carries is the hope for so many. YPR Austin dedicates itself to rebuilding the lives of people affected by substance use disorder. Its hard-working staff, reliable volunteers, and strong members collaborate together to provide support and education to those in need. As the chapter lead of YPR, I participate in public awareness and education by encouraging our community to understand the seriousness and life-threatening aspects of substance use disorder. Over a year ago, I started speaking in schools and treatment facilities as the YPR chapter lead. I talk about the intricacies of mental health and encourage these young people to speak up when themselves are in need or know someone who needs help. These students hear about mental illness from me, a young adult living in recovery. It is simple. The intent of sharing my experience is to help the youth see that substance use disorder affects individuals from all walks of life, regardless of age, and treatment works, and recovery really does happen. I share my story so they do not give up on their personal hope. The miraculous human emotion that is wellspring from which all other good emotions emerge. What is hope? It is the basic belief that good things will happen. Hope creates possibilities. Hope instills in us a sense of expectation and anticipation that what we want can come true and that help is available. Most importantly, teenagers are learning that they can end the silence that keeps from getting help. Our work is empowering the youth to get help and understand that mental health is as important as physical health, if not more so. We're changing the way our young people understand and talk about mental illness, and we know that has the potential to save lives. Thank you so much.
My name is Lou Migley, and I am with SRC. It's another acronym that we have in this field. It stands for Sober Recreational Committee. What we are is some individuals that got together, me and myself and Mike Ware, about a year ago, and we had been traveling all over the state and up to Colorado a few times for these sober recreational events that they had in other cities. And we were participating in softball events. And after doing that for about 4 years, every time I kept coming home and driving home, I was like, why don't we have this in Austin? This is something that could be, flourish in Austin. So last year, about this time, we had coffee and we were just, putting our minds together and saying, let's do this. And so we held our first softball tournament last year in November. The weather was terrible. It was 40 and raining. But we had, we had almost 80 people out there, playing softball in the cold and the rain. And man, it was a real spiritual experience for me. My own self, my own recovery. I'm in recovery for drugs and alcohol, and I have been for 6 years now. And the spiritual component to it all was extremely huge for me, especially in that first year and a half for me. And the one thing for myself and my own story that was missing was the social aspect of it all. And my background was in sports and athletics, and I was a college athlete, and I coached some after college. And the social aspect of it all was something that I had really missed. And once I was done playing, not participating in that anymore, I was lost, like Chris said. I was kind of just walking around blindly. And once I got into recovery and met people in meetings, and I met Mike in a meeting, and Mike and a couple other guys had a softball team, and I started playing with those guys. It took me a while to get out there and say yes to go out and play because of my social anxieties, my social fears at the time. And once I went out there, it was my recovery totally changed because of the social end of it all. It gave me a platform to connect to other people that were also sober and in recovery. And then traveling around, we all became really close and really good friends. So far we've had 5 softball tournaments. This month, earlier, a few weeks ago, we had 12 teams, 13 teams from, gotta keep you straight here. We had 13 teams from all over the state that came out. We had teams from Austin and Houston, and they came out and we participated in a softball tournament up in North Austin. And it was just totally awesome. It really was good. It was the biggest one that we've had to date. We ranged from 40 people to 150, but like I said earlier, if we get one person out there that has a good time and connects with somebody else, then it's all worth it. And we were able to a lot of friends I have seen flourish through the past year of people that have met through the softball tournament, which is really means that there's something good that's going on with the organization. I'm really proud to be up here and talk about SRC and our future. We're doing softball. We've had some bowling events, and this next year we're looking to get into some other areas. Maybe having a golf tournament, volleyball, kickball, and stuff like that. So we're excited about the opportunities that we have to continue to grow and help people in the Austin community. Thank you.
Is this just a record or? Oh, so I need to project my voice.
Yes.
So my name is Joseph Sanchez. I'm a person in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that I have not had a drink or drug since October 2nd, 2005. And and it's given me the opportunity to hold many different hats. And being a founding member and the president of the Recovery Alliance of Austin has truly been humbling. So we started here in Austin back in 2012, actually in October, so we're coming up on our 3rd anniversary. So our 3rd anniversary, and the way it started, I moved here to Austin in 2010, and I had been given the opportunity in my early recovery to work with a recovery community organization in El Paso called the El Paso Alliance, and they really saved my life. Not only was it a residential recovery center, but also they had a recovery community center attached to that. And I was given the opportunity and to be in the ranks and employed by them, and to be in charge of a couple of different events for that organization. And what we saw there is we saw people from the 12-step fellowships come out of the basements and come, sit and share a meal together and play in the park together, and I didn't see that here in Austin. And I thought to myself, why don't we have it here in Austin? So a friend of mine and a couple of friends of mine and I, we met at Austin Java like every Sunday for about 2 months, kind of fleshing out like what it would look like if we were to create, what was in El Paso here in Austin. And we reached out to some folks in the community, and we got that pushback with the whole 12-step traditions and affiliation, and we realized that if we were going to get any kind of involvement from the community, we needed to build a relationship with the community. So what we did is we found, we put on our website a survey. We got feedback from the community as to what they wanted and what they wanted to see happen in the community in Austin. And from that, we started to build our organization. Our mission statement, I'm going to follow your lead here, read from the iPhone. Our mission statement is to strengthen the recovery community by providing educational opportunities and support services. And our goal is to unify the recovery community by using the spirit of collaboration as our guide. So, that spirit of collaboration, I know that there's a whole bunch of organizations doing great work, operating completely in silos. And a lot of people are falling through the cracks. If they don't fit into this hula hoop and they don't fit into this hula hoop, then where do they fit in? So the Recovery Alliance of Austin, we started to pull organizations together that were doing great work here in Austin and said, hey, let's play together. Let's build a relationship and start collaborating on a few different events and activities. And also, too, it's a cost-effective way of doing stuff. I mean, one organization can do all this work and raise all this money to put on this event, and it's still hitting that one little hula hoop. But if we collaborated, then we could reach more people. So about 2 years ago, we reached out to our collaborating partners, and we said, hey, there's this cool movie called Anonymous People. We really want to bring it to Austin. And Lori with the School of Social Work, she's like, hey, we've got this awesome venue. I'm like, check, all right, And so we started putting all our heads together and thinking about how we can get, make this absolutely low to no cost to the community. And that's how we kind of go forward with a lot of our events, is using the existing resources in the community so that people in recovery and seeking recovery can get, have access to it. Low to no cost services. Currently, the Recovery Alliance of Austin, we provide weekly programming, yoga, meditation, and qigong. Qigong is like meditation movement, and it's a grandpappy of Tai Chi, if you will. And just kind of reaching out to the community and saying, hey, we're here. One of the other things that we do is we try to provide other educational support services. We had a 11-step workshop. We had somebody awesome man that his name escapes me right now. Hopefully this isn't too online. And he did this 11-step workshop, and you know, we talked about prayer, we talked about meditation, we talked about, you know, what it looks like outside the 12 steps, and what it looks like, you know, in life in general. So it was really, really cool. Also, too, we noticed that here in Austin, especially around September, Austin didn't have something that was really pulled together and was our own to celebrate Recovery Month. And this year, Texas, we have our governor who, what do you call it, sanctioned something for, well, proclamation, thank you. He proclaimed September to be Texas Recovery Month. So it was really, really exciting. We needed to celebrate that. So we pulled together that same collaborative, and we were able to have Austin's first annual Recovery in the Park event. The food was donated, the beverages were donated, the entertainment was donated, and everybody pulled together, and we were able to have an event for close to, if not over 600 people for less than $5,000. And that's really, really awesome. And that's really awesome. And that's for this first year. And that's not because of our doing, it's because the community coming together to put something on to celebrate life in recovery. And so, you know, what we want to do with the Recovery Alliance of Austin wants to do is continue to have all those collaborative efforts. Because we don't need to be the one-stop shop for anything. And if we build these relationships, we're like, hey, we don't offer that, but hey, Communities for Recovery, they do a great job, right? We don't do sports activities, but hey, you know what? We support SRC, right? As a matter of fact, I think the only time that I've seen and enjoyed a softball game is with SRC. And it's not just because, you know, it's not just because the game's happening, it's because my people are playing. And neglected to mention something at the beginning of each game. People circle up and say this right prayer. At that last game, 13 teams, we made a huge circle, right? And we forget that that energy comes, you know, when we come together. That energy is strong. And it's humbling, and it fills a lot of hearts with gratitude. And I think that's why a lot of us do what we do, because we're grateful for, you know, the opportunities that we've been given. Thanks.
I know, right? So, wow, we got lots going on in Texas, lots going on right here in Austin, and you know, one of the hallmarks of a recovery community organization is that it utilizes peers in a very significant way. And there's a lot of organizations that do amazing work out there, but may be serving individuals in recovery, but not being led by people in recovery. So maybe we can go around and talk about, so how does each organization utilize peers, whether that be in staffing or governance? I'm sorry. And not only how you do it, but why you think it's important.
So, Communities for Recovery, the majority of our board are people in recovery. We actually just have some new board members, Justin Harvey and Michael Tadashi just joined our board. We're really excited about that. They're real strong leaders in the recovery community in Austin. Michael Payne fundamental, it's a foundation for our organization. We have sort of a management environment. We spent a lot of time after I got to finish recovery talking about our values and what kind of an organization can provide the kind of services and supports that we are holding out. And we're very intentional because we think you can't give away what you don't have. You have to be an organization that's thoughtful about the values so that you can be an organization that's warm and welcoming, so that you can be an organization that provides hope and support. And so we spent a lot of time purposely thinking about how do we do that together, everyone in the community. How do we offer that? And we also have a peer assistance leadership council. We're really interested in developing leaders, and so we have a council that has really just been around for about a year. It's really just getting up and running, and all the people on that council are volunteers from Communities for Recovery who've been involved with volunteering for a while and wanted to sort of get involved at the next level. So that's, I think it's fundamental for your organization to empower peers in every way, in the community and in an organization.
Chris?
Yeah. Well, obviously, in our program, I mean, peers are a vital part of what we do. You know, reaching out to veterans is difficult in its own right. A lot of times, veterans coming off of military service, especially veterans who deployed, we're taught to be self-reliant. We're taught to internalize everything and to push through, drive on, suck it up, embrace the suck, and complete the mission. And it's very difficult for a veteran to reach out and to push their pride aside and to say, you know, I'm struggling, I need help. When you can get a peer involved that says, you know what, I've been there, I've done it, and I understand what you're going through, it plays a vital role in what we do. I can't do it alone. In Austin, there's over 50,000 veterans here in Austin. This isn't a program where you just sit in an office and you wait for veterans to come to you. You have to actually be out on the ground. It's a boots on the ground deal. And we need our peers, the peers that are trained to identify certain warning signs, to have difficult conversations with individuals, the conversations that people don't want to have. Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about hurting somebody else? You know, those are conversations that will save a life, and we need our peers to be trained and out. The more we can get out into the community, the more veterans that we can access that way. You know, a big stigma for us is reaching out for help in the isolation, and when you're in that state, it's you get to a point where you feel like nobody understands you. Nobody can understand what you've been through unless you were my buddy next to me in that firefight or you were on that patrol. Then there's no way you can understand what I've gone through. But the fact of the matter is that there are individuals out there are veterans that understand, and we have to break through that mindset and access those veterans. So that's, I mean, peers are, I mean, we would not be able to provide services if we did not have our peers. And like I said, all of our peers are volunteers. They just want to give back to their brothers and sisters that are struggling out, just like they did. So yeah, it's a vital, integral part.
The question is how vital peers are to our
Right, so
organization.
how does YPR use peers in their staffing or governance, and then why is that important?
It's our whole organization. We have a national staff, and Robert is out there, and then we have local chapters. It's similar to an association, NAMI. That's how they set up. And I would say, of course, it's important. We provide peer support to our peers, and I would say one of the greatest things that YPR gives is teaching individuals how to be leaders. right? So like, for example, I've learned a lot from Robert, I've learned a lot from Lori, Robin, and the next thing is that we create an environment where we make it safe for a peer to thrive, to be the best that they can be. And so just a little breakdown. So we have our national staff that, basically does all the cool stuff, goes to the White House, etc. And then you have the local chapters. We have a few members. We have another chapter lead, Tony Farmer. And what we do is that we encourage other peers to go out and spread recovery. I would have to agree with Chris that people don't come to us. We have to go out there and we have to carry the message. And so we are a peer-based program, and most vital is that we collaborate with other peer-based programs. I agree with Joseph over here. I think we need to be intertwined and interconnected, and that's when we are able to help the most amount of population.
So SRC, we have a committee right now that's made up of, I believe, 6 board members. And we open it up each month to whoever wants to come to our committee meetings and wants to be of service and help out, throw anything or put anything on. We have, at-large position as well. So when we have new people that haven't been there, it's their first time, they want to get involved, then we vote them in as an at-large position so that they can be of service and help. And at the end of this year, we're going to open it up for, in the spirit of rotation, so that everybody has, something that what their strength is, they can bring to the board and they can bring to the organization and keep this thing going and flourish. As far as the rest of the peer stuff, we when we first started this thing, we were like, what are we going to call it? What do we want to name it? And we thought about how, that you've got your NA groups, your CA groups, your AA groups, and then you got Al-Anon and all this stuff, and the eating disorder, and how kind of Joseph, I've heard him say before, we want to break down the walls of all that. So we wanted to open it up to everybody that's, in recovery or sober. So that's why we called it the sober. Okay? It was more, we wanted to open it up to everybody to come and have a fun sober event. And we have a lot of people out there, not a lot, but we have Al-Anon people out there as well. So we've opened it up. We're trying to break down the walls of all the different recovery organizations to come together and to service it.
So our board is made up of people in recovery that do a lot of the heavy lifting. We don't have any employees right now. So our board members do a lot of the work, from editing the stories that go on to our website that are from the community, from community members that submitted to us. Our website is, one of our board members, he's a genius, so he, does our website. And, to all the programming. I mentioned the survey that we have on our website, getting the ideas from the recovery community, and also to, just recently, we've taken SRC has set a good precedent for opening up their board meetings, so we decided to do the same thing and offering, anybody in the recovery community to come to our, board meeting, and because honestly, we have nothing to hide. I mean, if we are a recovery community organization, then we should be accountable to the community that we serve. So from the amount of money that we have in the bank account to what our next steps are, what we have planned, I mean, it's for the community, so why not let them know that? So, we are really, really passionate about the participatory process, and the idea is not coming from our organization saying, ta-da, we're here, this is what we're going to do for you. And then saying, no, we're here to support you, what would you like? And we've gotten some great ideas from the community, and we say, okay, that's great. How are we going to do that? Also too, how are you going to help us so that the community has skin in the game? Because we're not going to, try to put on some activity where, the community is not going to come out to. So, we have, currently we're working on a project and community members said, hey, this is going to be a great idea. I said, absolutely. How would you like to make that happen? Because, the board, we have, I think also 6 or 7 board members, and we do a lot of the work, but, it's not our organization, it's the community organization. So we put some, accountability and work in the hands of the recovery community as well. So, I mean, that's good peer stuff, right?
So each of y'all have shared some of your successes and the different services, and it's amazing to see the diversity and then also the kind of the common threads to it. But I'm sure that your organization has come up against some barriers, some challenges. So I would be interested in hearing, so what are some of those challenges? And then if you've been able to figure out some solutions or any ideas of what solutions to those challenges might be.
Well, I can mostly speak to the challenges that Communities for Recovery faced in the last year and a half since I got there. And one big change that happened at Communities for Recovery is that we went from an organization that we moved into being an organization that had grants. And so we now have funding from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SANSA, and then we have a Recovery Support and Services grant from the Department of State Health Services. And as I mentioned, I'm working with Joe Howell and with APA in Dallas as a grant from Health Resources Services Administration person to do the work training people who want to do peer recovery coaching for young people 6 to 12. And that's a big change for an organization to move from a donation fundraising based organization to an organization that's managing large grants. Because you always want to be sure your grants reflect your mission, and even when they do reflect your mission, you have to try and look at not having the tiger or the tail wag the tiger and the grant, because the pressure is, you have to thoroughly define deliverables and clear models. And when you're in a volunteer organization and coaching, the field is moving towards what people want to pay for, what governments want to use public funds for is coaching, not necessarily supporting volunteers. Why would you need money to support volunteers? But it takes a lot of effort and work to support volunteers. And in this work in particular, to provide the supervision and the support when everyone is in recovery. You have to be pretty intentional with that. And so that's been a challenge for our organization to look at staying true to who we are and what we say we do, and still looking at meeting the intentions of the grants, the intention of the funders. So that's something that we think about, how do we go about doing that in a way that stays true to our mission and to the people that we serve.
So obviously, besides the financial challenges that every organization probably up here faces, luckily we were funded by the Texas State Legislature, but $5 million only goes so far when you have 37 community partners that you have to fund through that, especially, and then we won't go into the whole financial deal of it. But I think one of the bigger challenges that we face is the social stigma that comes with mental illness, with PTSD. And I think a lot of how the civilian population views a veteran that may have PTSD or maybe suffering from some type of trauma, moral injury or not. That's one of the biggest challenges that we face, is when a veteran is suffering from PTSD, suffering from some type of moral injury or some type of trauma, those individuals tend to isolate. Those individuals will tend to isolate, they'll pull back from society, and they'll self-medicate. We get a lot of self-medication with alcohol and drugs and risky behaviors. Overcoming that stigma that a veteran with PTSD is going to go out there and shoot up a movie theater or is going to go into a mall and do something crazy is one of the things that we try to educate the population to, saying that's not how it happens. 9 times out of 10, your veteran who's suffering from PTSD or social anxiety disorder is not going to go into a mall, who can't stand to be in a mall for over a minute. I remember going through my recovery, I was going through prolonged exposure therapy. And if you know about that, oh my God, it was like the worst thing ever. But one of my assignments was to go into the HEB at 6 o'clock in the evening on a Friday, on a payday, and try to be in line for 5 minutes. And that was one of my deals. I lasted 2 minutes and I had to leave. But that's our biggest challenge is the social perception on people with PTSD or that. Because when you have an individual who's looking to maybe wanting to get help with their mental illness, and then something comes on TV, oh, this guy was a military veteran and he went and shot some people, it's probably PTSD. Well, then this guy's going to be, the guy who's looking to get help is not going to go get help, because now he's like, I don't want to be labeled that guy. And that's the biggest challenge. It's really trying to get through those social stigmas and those social perceptions of what PTSD looks like and what TBI looks like. I traveled the state providing what we call military informed care to organizations and programs that want to start working with veterans or want to hire veterans, and basically tell them what it looks like to deal with a veteran who has PTSD. And I go, I mean, are you afraid of me? I mean, I have PTSD. I have TBI. I'm not gonna shoot up your room. I mean, are you scared of me? And if you're not, then why would you be scared of somebody else? And we got to break that stigma, and we got to break that perception of what's going on.
I would say 2 issues that YPR Austin has tried to resolve. First of all, I'm very lucky and fortunate to represent an organization that already was highly respected across the nation. And so when I first started leading YPR in Austin, all the local organizations embraced us. And I had no problem finding a place to hold meetings and etc. I hold meetings at Communities for Recovery. I would say one issue was learning how to be a leader. So at first I was authoritative, and I would say, oh, we're going to do this, blah, blah. And I learned the approach of being more democratic. And so when I was much more democratic, the members were much more willing to participate and wanting to be involved. The second issue was that since the community already knew what YPR was, what population did we need to inform about YPR? And so how I solved that was that my mother does a lot of philanthropy work. And so through picking up trash on the road and through parks in Austin, especially the Greenbelt, YPR has volunteered to help do that. And thus, we are connected with outsiders, and we're informing about the disease. And other things, like my mother does beekeeping, and so I'll help with the children, and I'll talk about YPR as a volunteer. I think that is the issue, is to make us connected, not just in the recovery community, but in Austin's community as a whole. And I mean, we just really haven't had that many issues. I'm very blessed to be part of YPR. I'm very blessed that all these individuals have embraced YPR.
So a couple of struggles that that I can think of off the top of my head is that, we're a very new organization. We haven't been around very long. And of course, funding is a huge one. But just getting the word out there has been a little bit of a struggle, because people in meetings and are just like, that's not an AA related event, or why are you doing stuff like that? So we've had a little bit of a struggle there in getting the word out, but this month has really been huge for us. We've gotten lots of support thus far this month. Something else that just kind of came up was getting people out there. Since we're kind of focused on softball now, but we want to branch out, is the playing field, leveling of the playing field out there, so that everyone can have fun and not come out there and get their tail beaten every time by two people or a team. So and getting them to know that, hey man, we're out there to have fun. It doesn't matter if you're good or you're not any good or whatever. Just come out there and we're going to put you in. We have different divisions, so we've like last month we had 4 fields, so we had an A, B, C, and D division where we try to level the playing field as much as possible on skill level, so that it's more fun for people to come out. And that's probably been the biggest struggle so far, but everything so far has been great.
Money. So yeah, I don't need to preach to the choir about funding, and one of the things that the Recovery Alliance of Austin has had struggles with, and not so much struggles with, but just kind of on that, in that decision of like, do we want to go for grants, and are we prepared to go for any kind of grants? And right now we don't want grant money to dictate where we go with what we do. We want the community to do that, and we also want the community to invest in us. And I think it's building that relationship with the community, an authentic relationship with the community. So truly being grassroots. Right now, since the board members do a lot of the work, I know that at times it will become overwhelming, and we'll have to look at hiring an executive director, and so that's on the radar. That's realistic. One of the biggest challenges, and Lou mentioned, is the community that we serve itself. There's an event that happens every year. It's a clean and sober New Year's bash, right? And we reached out to the organization that puts that on, or to the individual that puts it on, and said, hey, the Recovery Alliance of Austin wants to support this. How can we support? How can we help? And they said, well, how does this affect the traditions? And like, it doesn't, because it's a community event that you're holding, so it has nothing to do with one fellowship. It has nothing to do with the traditions. And a lot of key holders in the community, a lot of elders, a lot of respected individuals are set in their 12-step traditions. So it's really difficult to come out and say, hey, we want to collaborate, we want to help support the community, and they're like, well, this affects the traditions. And I'm like, no, it doesn't, right? Really, it doesn't. And people don't get that. And so it takes a lot of education, and we can't come in and just sit people down like this. No, I'm going to reteach you about your misunderstanding, and we can't do that. I mean, that's the way it's not good over good, right? But yeah, that's a huge challenge. A huge challenge that people, we're here to help collaborate and break down silos, and people are very, very comfortable in their silos, and that's unfortunate. How are we to be of maximum service if we have such a minimal, scope?
right? We have such a small net. So one of the things that, we're grateful for is that here in Austin we have, the collaborating partners or the people that we collaborate with. It's easy to because they're our friends. So I know recovery community organizations in different parts of the state, may have those, problems. And I say, make friends, right? So I know that I can have a real conversation with Lou and Jason and Robin sit down and say, I'm like, hey, listen, all bullshit aside, we need to do something, right? And to have that communication be like, okay, if I'm pissed off at you, you'll know it. And we'll talk about it. Because we practice these principles in all of our affairs, right? And so having a recovery community organization means that I should, operate with these principles that I've learned in my own recovery process. Honesty, right? I'm going to be honest with the people that I serve, and I want them to be honest with me. Open and willing to collaborate so that, we start to save lives and nobody falls through the cracks. So that may be pipe dreams, but I think in Austin we're doing it. And the more relationships that we build out, then, it will leave an imprint. And it'll serve as a role model for, other organizations that are having, struggles out there in Texas. So watch our feet.
Thanks, Joseph. So, as I mentioned earlier, we won this Sampson grant, the Substance Use and Health Services Administration grant, to launch RecoveryPeople. It's a statewide network that, and part of our charge is to support organizations just like yours, to encourage and support collaboration across all the different organizations. And that's one of the themes that I've heard throughout this morning is about collaboration. Is there something that RecoveryPeople can be doing to better support your individual organization or collaboration across the organization?
I wish I wasn't the first. That's a really good question, but I think we're doing it so well. I'm not sure what else we can do. I think we came together and developed the ROC, which is Recovery Organization Community Collaborative. We have so many acronyms, it's ridiculous. But we've been very, I think, effective in coming together and one, planning a conference, two, looking at the whole recovery month was sort of our focus this past year. Then looking at what other things could we kept coming up with lots of really good ideas. It's been a busy month. So I'm not sure that there is anything. Really just to be intentional, and we are, in breaking down the silos. My background is sort of working in the substance use, and then I worked at the local level, and I worked at the state level, and worked with the Department of State Health Services, and the silos are so entrenched at that level. And then all the areas that we talked about where there's other silos. And what I like about the way we all work together is we're just clearly committed to changing that in the Austin, Travis County, Central Texas area. And it is going to take a commitment to work through that. So I think just to continue to try and be intentional about, saying recovery is recovery, and we want to support each other across the spectrum.
Chris, is there a way that RecoveryPeople as a statewide network on the substance use recovery side can support others?
Yeah, definitely. I kind of feel like the outsider up here. It seems like everybody up here kind of is on the same playing field, and I'm just kind of like watching from the sidelines. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I think conferences like this, panels like this that bring a variety of community organizations together is great. one of the things that I'm involved in, like I said earlier, is the Travis County Veterans Treatment Court. The Travis County Veterans Treatment Court is a court that offers veterans who have been diagnosed with a mental health issue. When they get in trouble with DUIs, they get in trouble with possession charges, substance abuse, things like that. They have the option to go into Veterans Treatment Court. It's actually a lot more rigorous than what a lot of people would think, but when they get into the Veterans Treatment Court, sobriety, substance abuse treatment is a big deal in there. They have to wear an alcohol monitoring device on their ankle, which we call a scram device, for 90 days. They're subjected to random urinalysis tests, and they're more random than they would be if they were on probation. One of the things that it does, it kind of almost forces them into recovery. It forces them to address the issues that they're facing. And I think organizations like what you guys are doing would be a great fit into what we're trying to do at the treatment court, especially like your recreational deal, because a lot of these guys have very minimal social skills, and they're very isolated, and they're not getting out there, and they're not meeting people. And to have, I didn't know about your organization. Now that I do, I'm going to invite you to that court. It's great to have those kind of organizations out there. We have young individuals that are in there. We have veterans that are 20, 22, 23 years old that have been on 3 or 4 combat deployments and are self-medicating with alcohol and drugs. So I think collaborations like this, having a diverse panel is great. We have a Central Texas Veterans Service Coalition where we meet once a month. I'd invite anybody who wanted to come out to see what we do here in Central Texas when it comes to veteran service.
I'm excited to answer this.
Good.
Prevention. I would like help with accessing particular elementary populations, school fairs. A couple months ago, I had the privilege to speak on behalf of the Community Center, Jamie Schmidt's organization, and it was such a privilege. And getting there at a young age and at least sharing and talking about mental illness. And so that has been a difficult avenue for me for YPR, is that I think it's important and vital to target young people and inform them and somehow teach or educate. And so if we could collaborate together and help with that process, I think that would be so important for our community.
Yeah, funny you bring this up. So I think this right here has been a huge help. Huge. This whole month has just been really, really awesome. We've had a lot of fun. I've done stuff every weekend in recovery, and I've been able to bring some of my alumni from my job, my day job, the right stuff, out to some of the events as well. So it's been really good. Other than that, just helping us find avenues for funding. I think is a big one, because we want to keep the costs as low as possible for the people that come out and participate in events, and we don't want money to be any kind of an issue for them not to come out there. So it's
Just kidding, no. How can recovery people help? I think recovery people as a statewide network, kind of setting up, for other recovery community organizations, it's really difficult to, facilitate those conversations and collaboration, and to also identify the other organizations that they would kind of mesh well or you get along with. So I think being that connector, that recovery resource, for organizations. I know for for SRC and the Recovery Alliance Boston, what we've done is, not have just a little handshake, but we developed a formal MOU that we're going to play well together. So what that looks like, we can talk for days about how we're going to collaborate, but how are we going to be accountable to that? And how, is it going to be a realistic collaboration? We're not going to put in the MOU that we're going to be at every event, but, we will help to get the word out there. We'll help support any way that we can. And so that's written into, a solid agreement. Not a lot of organizations know, what an MOU or MOA is and how to write it and how to facilitate that conversation where there's realistic expectations. And even beyond that, how to facilitate, how to have the conversation and be able to vocalize the concerns and maybe even the fears when organizations start to collaborate.
So YPR wants to educate, advocate, house, etc. I'm running to, I have an appointment list that I help, and we help build resumes, etc. like that. The most difficult challenge I have is finding affordable housing. My goodness, and I don't know why I didn't bring this up, but somehow I have had two prominent organizations here in Austin that have agreed to scholarship people out. YPR does a little, fill out something application, and we'll pay for 1 month's rent. So that's what we need help, is affordable housing. My goodness. It is just, Austin, first of all, is just so expensive to live in, but we need to help people be in a sober, contained environment. I believe that will help encourage long-term sobriety. So if you could help with that would be very great. My goodness.
I'm looking at the time, we're almost at the end of time. This has passed so quickly. I had wanted to reserve some time for questions from the audience, but and so I apologize to the audience for not finding time. I just want to thank all the panelists. I really enjoyed this. I think we've all learned so much from each and every one of you. Each one of your peer-led recovery organizations is doing, unique things, amazing things, and I look forward to collaborating and going on in the future. So thank you.